When you are looking to get into the real estate market, a lot of people just focus on that first step of getting into the property. But I would almost counter that way more important is the management of that property. This is where you're going to make most of your money being a landlord or knowing who you can properly hand this off to hold it and trust it, and it's going to grow for you in the future. And this week on the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast, we're sitting down with property manager from Yorkton, Randall Hoeber. Randall is a friend of the podcast, been on lots of times. Randall, happy to have you back today.
Hey, awesome. Thanks for the invite, Ron. I'm looking forward to it.
This is the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast.
I wanted to get you on, Randall, just to talk about this very important thing of managing the property long term. Because would you agree, Randall, this is literally where a real estate investor is going to either make or break their investment?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's important to have good management to whether that's something you want to do on your own or whether you want to contract a professional and do it. Either way, that property needs to be managed effectively. You want to reduce your expenses. You want to maximize your profit.
So because you are a property manager, I thought it would be great to get you on and walk us through 9 of your systems that you use as a professional property manager to help you manage portfolios for yourself and for others. And I thought this will be helpful either for someone who's looking to get into the real estate market, or they're a current landlord looking for a little bit of help on how to manage this. So let's just start off with system number 1, Randall. How do you screen and select tenants?
This is a really great question, and it's a great starting point. And I've experienced this the hard way when I first started, and I've kind of fine-tuned my screening system a little bit here. I always start with, after I've posted my ads on Facebook Marketplace, which is probably the number one driver of leads here in a smaller market like Yorkton, is I do a pre-screening questionnaire. And so when a lead inquires about the property, sometimes it'll be, hey, can I schedule a viewing? I'll say, well, prior to scheduling a viewing, please answer the following pre-screening questions. And I just drop that right into Messenger. I have it on my phone. I have it on my computer. So if I'm, away from my office and I get the lead, I drop these pre-screening questions right into Facebook Messenger. And it's questions like, tell us about yourself, which is a great starting question, because the more that lead tells me about themselves, the better I can gauge whether they're going to be a qualified tenant for that particular property. I'll ask them a question such as, how many people will be living in the property? How many people smoke or vape? Do they have any pets? What's this? Are they full-time employed? And if not, what is their source of income? And have they rented before and ever been evicted? And it's a great starter questions to get the conversation going and to start gauging and filtering through the leads. And what I find, Ron, is there are some people who will not answer those questions. They just won't even proceed any further. And for me, that's fine, because that tells me that they're either they didn't want to share that information, couldn't be bothered to provide me with the details, in which case then they're not on my list. If they come back to me later answering those questions, I filter them back into the funnel, right? I kind of funnel them down. But if they don't respond, then I don't proceed. I don't chase them down. I don't follow up with them. I just leave it as is.
I often have something similar. I think most professionals who work in some sort of service industry, it seems a little counterintuitive that you're putting up barriers to your customers. But often what you find is the people who are willing to pass through or, answer a few questions, fill out an application, move to the next step, they're often people who want to work with you. And those are the people that ultimately you want to do business with. And so I love that idea of having maybe something in place to say, all right, here's the cost of entry, fill out the questionnaire, and we can kind of take you to the next step. So once
I learned that the hard way. So for example, I would go do viewings, I'd schedule my viewings, and then I'd go to the location, and only 1 out of 4 people would show up. And then I realized, okay, well, why aren't they showing up? I need to filter them a little bit so that I can feel more confident that when I book that viewing, that person's actually going to show up. Correct. And I also went to where I did some viewings at a bachelor suite, and then 3 or 4 people walk in. And I know right off the bat, I'm not renting a bachelor suite to 4 people. it's not conducive. It goes counter to the national occupancy standards, and it's just not a good thing to do. It's a lot of wear and tear, as you know, the small space, etc. So by doing this screening system, if I'm doing a bachelor suite, and the person responds to the question, how many occupants, and they say 3 or 4, I'm probably not going to proceed with scheduling them for that viewing. So it saves some time on that end as well.
And are there major things that you're looking at when selecting a tenant as well?
Well, you got to be very cautious and objective when doing that, because I think everybody can agree can't discriminate on color, can't discriminate on income, can't discriminate on age, can't discriminate on disability. Like you got to comply with the Saskatchewan Human Rights Act and the commission around what's, where you're not discriminating against anybody on any of those things. So I try to be very objective. So I mean, obviously, I think anybody can agree that most people want the best quality tenant in their space. But you have to be very strategic and use a very objective system when making that decision, so that you can always, everything should be defensible, in my opinion. So I have to practice from that standpoint.
What is your system for collecting rent? System number 2, what do you have in place to help collect the rent every month?
Well, right now, as a licensed property manager registered with the Saskatchewan Real Estate Commission and affiliated with the brokerage Boys Group Realty, we use Buildium. Buildium is one of the many property management software programs that are available. And so when it comes to rent collection, we encourage all the tenants to use the Buildium portal, so they can register with Buildium. They can get what's called a resident portal, and they can pay rent directly through that resident portal. They can set up automatic debit from their bank account. They can pay per month manually, or they could do the auto debit. They could pay via credit card. So we encourage people to use the Buildium. We encourage our tenants to use Buildium to make the rent payments whenever possible, as often as possible. However, some are a little not tech savvy and get really easily frustrated with the system, and maybe it's not as user friendly as someone would like. In which case, then I just say send the transfer, and we will capture it in the rent ledger. And then, then the rent ledger will identify if rents have been missed or skipped or whatever.
Okay, brilliant. How do tenants submit maintenance requests, and how are they handled?
Again, in that regard, I like to use Buildium, because that is the property management software that we're using. So when a tenant sends me a message, most of the tenants will contact me directly. They have my contact information. They'll text me. More often than not, it'll be a text message saying, hey, such and such, here's my problem. And I will encourage them to actually take that and put it into Buildium, along with not only a description of what's going on, but if they have photos and videos, to please provide those photos and videos and upload them into the portal. Because if I'm going to use that portal to immediately create a work order, and I can send off to an independent contractor doing my repairs and maintenance, they can actually see the description and they can see the photo and the video. This allows my independent contractor to then, whoever I push that work order to, it allows them to actually, in some cases, do a quick diagnosis of the problem before even going to the property. Saves them time. If they can quickly see what's going on, they know exactly what needs to get done. They can run off to the hardware store, they can go to the property, they can solve the problem. So I found that it creates more efficiencies for me, and then it frees up more time for me.
Good for you, good for the tenant, good for the service provider helping out with that maintenance item.
Yeah. And the thing I like too that even furthers that the efficiency is that when the tenant goes and creates their maintenance task using that Buildium portal, they can identify whether they can actually give permission to enter. And they can also say if there's pets present. So if they give permission to enter and they say there's no pets, then I know that my maintenance contractor can go in. So he doesn't have to give the 24-hour notice to deal with the maintenance, because they've already provided permission to enter. And they already know there's no pets, so they don't have to worry about whether there's a risk for them getting bit by a dog, for example. and provides, and on top of that is the tenant contact information. So that I'll just say contact the tenant directly if they have not provided permission. Contact them directly to arrange entry, and give me an update as to what's going on upon completion of the job. So it also kind of takes me out of the mix, because I don't need to be the middleman in coordinating between the maintenance contractor and the tenant. They can just connect directly, go in, get the work done, and let me know what the result was.
And not that that in itself is a hard, heavy task, but probably what you deal with as a property manager is mental load. Just so many little things that need to happen, people
Yes,
to
that's
message.
right.
And so being able to eliminate 5 or 6 texts from your workload probably means a tremendous amount if you know, encapsulate that over a lifetime of property managing. It's a tremendous amount of time saving if you can figure out ways of eliminating, you know, a text message here, a call there, if you can connect those people.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. And then I know that I have confidence that the job's been completed, and I'll get my notification, you know, through the invoice from the contractor. But at the same time, I also reach out to the tenant and ask, you know, were they satisfied? Like, has this problem been solved? And more often than not, the answer is yes. You know, it was solved because they were able to diagnose it and deal with it right on the job. And sometimes, of course, there's going to be things where it need to get approval for cost if it was a little higher than we thought. So then there will be a bit of a pause on getting that done until the approval's been made. But once the approval is made, again, go back in, arrange with the tenant to get the job done.
Wonderful. One of the most important parts of real estate investing is actually understanding return and how much the property is costing us or earning us. What system do you use to track income, expenses, and property performance?
Well, again, I'm going to put another plug in for Buildium, because I find that it provides pretty much everything that a property owner would need to understand. And it provides a litany of financial reports that a owner can access. It could be a monthly cash flow statement. They could break it down into quarters. They can break it down into an entire year. They can look at they can have expense lists. They can see all the rent rolls. So they pretty much all those financial documents, fortunately, are captured within Buildium. And so it doesn't require me to necessarily update those documents, because the Buildium system will do it once the data has been inputted by the property management team. I personally keep spreadsheets of every property. So every month I've got a spreadsheet where all my expenses that have occurred. And then those expenses get entered in on the property management side of things, not myself, but someone with the boys group will enter that data into the building portal. And then all those financials are there for the building owner to see.
And so that makes it obviously really nice for someone who is using you as a property manager, because you know people have questions on what's happening with the building, the expenses. And so is it generated month to month, or how can a person access that information?
The owner can, so just as I mentioned before, there's a resident portal for the tenant. There's an owner portal for the owner. So once the owner gets registered with Buildium, they create their login credentials. Then they've got access to the owner portal, and they've got access to all the financial statements that tells them about the performance of their property. They just need to take some time to navigate through it to find out which financial statements is going to give them the information that they're looking for. And, you know, if they are having some challenges with that, then it may be a call with myself to kind of work through from what I can see when I log into Buildium, which is a different portal because I don't have an owner's portal. I don't have a tenant's portal. I got the property manager's portal. Or I can refer them to the person that I always deal with at Boys Group if I'm having some questions around how to navigate through Buildium. And she's always been very helpful with the owners, helping them find the information they need so they can get the report that they want. Ultimately, they want to know what's the performance of the property. They want to know what are they generating, you know, income, and what are those expenses, and, you know, are those expenses justified or not.
Real estate investing does not have to be a full-time job. Randall, Hoeber, and Boys Group Realty provide complete property management services in Yorkton and surrounding areas, allowing investors to enjoy passive income without the headaches of day-to-day management. From finding tenants to handling maintenance and rent collection, Whether you own a property or are just getting started in the market, Randall Hoeber and Boys Group Realty makes it simple. Call Randall Hoeber at 306-782-1323 or email info@ralixenterprises.com to take the next step towards hands-free real estate investing. Your property, our expertise. Whether it's your home, business, or farm, Pioneer Solar and Renewables has you covered. As leaders in residential, commercial, and agriculture solar solutions, they make clean energy easy and affordable. Visit pioneersolarenergy.com or give them a call to begin harnessing the power of the sun today. Are you investing in real estate? Let Krishna with Boys Group Realty take care of everything. Finding properties, purchasing, renovations, leasing, and management, leaving you to focus on building wealth. Whether it's a single rental or an entire portfolio, serving Saskatchewan and surrounding areas, helping maximize cash flows and minimize stress. If you're looking for an expert to manage your investments, reach out today, home@meetkrishna.ca.
Randall, walk me through the importance of organizing lease agreements, renewals, and legal compliance for every property.
Okay, well, legal compliance will start there. I mean, every rental agreement has to comply with the Residential Tenancies Act. So I've got that thing on my desktop highlighted. I constantly refer to it. I make sure that my lease agreements capture that information. And then I'll do my leasing through Buildium again, simply because I like the fact that from an efficiency standpoint, I don't have to print off a document and sign it. I can get it e-signed. So it's very quick. I can send to my tenant, they can, to the proposed tenant who's going to get the lease contract. That particular person can read it, they can sign it, and I'll e-sign it, so they don't print it off. It'll come to me through notification, and it'll be done. It's very quick. So lease agreements, again, before I get to the leasing stage, the first thing was that's pre-screening questionnaire. Following from that, if the person's seen the property and they like what they see, then I'd send them a link to an online application. Following completion of the application and reviewing of the application, a landlord reference check. After the landlord reference check has been completed. And somewhere in there is also my search with the Canadian Legal Information Institute to determine if there's been any judgments made against them from say, for example, a non-payment of rent or, being evicted for causing a serious disturbance in the property. Then there would be the credit check, income verification credit check, and then there's the lease agreement. So these are all the things that have to occur before I actually offer a lease out to a tenant. And some won't make it through certain stages. Some won't provide me with an income verification, or their income may not be sufficient to cover their rent. Some may not. Some may have bad landlord reference checks, which then again, I look at everything in one big picture. I don't just say, oh, because you got a bad reference check, you're off the list. I look at the entire picture, which includes the rental history, income verification, criminal record, and credit check. And all those things is what's going to help us decide if we're going to offer a lease agreement to somebody or not. And then at that point, if we do offer the lease agreement, it's done through Buildium, so it's very quick. No paper that needs to be printed off and signed. It's scanned back up into the system. And upon completion of the lease agreement, then once it's been signed, then it's in the system, and then we just arrange for payment and then move in orientation and inspections and handover of keys.
Wonderful. At number 7, Randall, sounds like Buildium is a really awesome software. Are there any other pieces of software that you use a lot to save time and money? Or if there's other features of Buildium that you want to expand on, feel free.
Sure. When it comes to doing the credit checks, I use what's called a program called Front Lobby, or a company called Front Lobby. Front Lobby owns a landlord credit bureau. And the reason why I like Front Lobby, two things. I mean, there's other systems where you can act. There's other companies or programs you can use to collect credit check information. The reason why I like Front Lobby is it actually is an incentive that I can provide to my tenants, because with Front Lobby, you can do rent reporting, and that allows the tenant to use the rent payments towards boosting and improving their credit. It's kind of like when you make a mortgage payment. When I make a mortgage payment, the mortgage payment that I make gets reported to the credit bureau, like Equifax, and they see that I'm making my mortgage payments on time, and it helps improve my score. If I miss a mortgage payment, couple of mortgage payments, 30 days or 60 days in default, it has a negative impact on my credit score. So with front lobby, I can help my tenants build their credit, so maybe they can one day qualify to buy a property and have their own mortgage, and instead of paying rent to me, basically own the property themselves, pay money to the bank in form of a mortgage. So that's why I like to use front lobby. I can get my credit score, my credit check, just like I can using other programs, but I can use that incentive to also, when I'm doing my tenant screening, hey, here's what you get from working with us. You can use your rent payments to help build a credit score. It costs you nothing. All you have to do is pay your rent on or before the due date. And if it's on or before the due date, and you authorize and submit, I guess the tenant would have to authorize rent reporting to get the benefit of it. But again, it doesn't cost them anything to do it. Make your rent payments on time, improve your credit score, and then it helps with the relationship with the landlord.
Wonderful. System number 8, Randall. What does your monthly or quarterly property review process look like? Cash flow, vacancy, repairs.
So I don't meet with the property owners quarterly or semi-annually unless they're wanting to have that discussion. Some owners have more oversight than others. So some will want property management meetings as things come up. It might be monthly or it might be every couple months, usually at the request of the owner versus me setting up those meetings with the owner. So the owners have access to all the information they need through the owner portal. And if they want to meet to discuss those things, then, obviously we're going to have that conversation. It's usually owner driven versus property management driven. But there's still going to be those conversations around, here's some leasing things we need to consider. Here's some repairs and maintenance items that we need to discuss. Here's the current list of applications we've received. If you want to have some discussion around the leasing, which one you want to lease to, then we'll have those discussions. But when it comes to the providing of the financial reports, it's most of that stuff they can access through the building portal.
All right. And the very last one, and probably the most important one, have you outsourced any part of your operations? This could be bookkeeping, helping to do maintenance on the property. Why or why not? And just talk about how in a growing phase of the business, how important this section is.
Well, if I'm doing everything, I'm holding myself back. I'm in a position where I can't expand and grow. And so in order for that to happen, I need to have people on my team that are able to take some of this work off my shoulders and can get the job done better than I would in most instances. So for example, repairs and maintenance, if I went over to the property and I tried to change a lock or I was putting in new flooring, I'd be there for hours and days. Or I can source that out to somebody who knows what they're doing and is good at it. And they would be considered independent contractors. So they enter into what's the word I'm looking for here? We have like a contract. So we will have like a vendor contract. So I'll get a vendor contract in place with some of the repairs and maintenance folks that I use. And then we will, agree to what the cost is going to be, whether it's going to be hourly or piece. And then when the work comes up, I will outsource that to them. And I don't just have one. I have like 3 or 4 different repairs and maintenance people that I use depending upon what their skill level is. So if someone's really good at drywall repair, for example, that's the person I'm going to want to go to when it comes to a drywall issue, because the finish of that drywall needs to be important for not only the aesthetic of the tenant, but the owner also wants to know that it was done well. So I will outsource repairs and maintenance with 3 or 4 different contractors. I've got someone a vendor who does a majority of my lawn care. I just give them a list of I provide the lawnmower, I provide the fuel, I provide the weed whacker and the leaf blower. Here's my list of properties. And then every 10 days or so, we will get to every property with lawn care. So he'll do the lawn care, snow removal. And then I also have an admin assistant who is not an employee of mine by any means. She's an independent contractor, just like the repairs and maintenance folks. And then she will take care of some of the admin work, such as doing landlord reference checks for me, She's helped create some PowerPoint presentations and standard operations procedure manual. I just kind of tell her, here's kind of what I want to look for and I want contained within that SOP manual, and then she will, put the information together, and then I'll just review it to make sure it's all, fine tune it together or whatever. But now those are the things that I've kind of farmed out to other people, so that I'm in a position where I can meet with owners. I can have those phone calls about, an expense, a line item that may be questionable. I can have conversations with potential new owner clients. I can go to properties to do my inspections, because inspections is another key piece of what I need to do as a property manager, is inspect the properties to ensure that it's being well maintained and to capture any maintenance items that need the attention of the owner. So if I can farm those things out, I free up my time to do some of those other things that I just mentioned.
As I said at the beginning, you would think that getting the property itself would be so important. And it is, to find the right property at the right price that's going to rent. But as you've outlined here, Randall, there's so much that goes into running the business of property managing. And I think you've done such a great job explaining all of this for us today. Walk me through, just before our last question, Randall, if someone is interested in having you manage properties, just walk us through the area that you currently service if someone wanted to reach out and potentially have you chat about maybe managing some properties.
The Saskatchewan Realtors Association supports over 1,700 realtors across the province. Their members provide expert insights to help you navigate the market. Visit sra.ca for monthly stats, industry updates, and to find a realtor near you.
So I operate primarily out of Yorkton, Saskatchewan. But I also have a fairly robust and growing property management portfolio in Melville, which is about a 30-minute drive south of the city. I've also got a property management portfolio and a personal portfolio in Kenora, which is on the other end, about 30-minute drive on the north of Yorkton. And then kind of in that general geographic area. So I would say probably within about a 30, 45 minute, maybe even at the most an hour drive radius of Yorkton would be the area that I would service.
Okay. And what is the best way to contact you if someone wanted to get more information?
There's three main sources of contact. One would be my phone number. The second one would be my email. Third one would be through Facebook Messenger. So the email is info@ralexenterprises.com. That's RALEX enterprises.com. And Facebook Messenger, just look for my name. Okay. Those would be the three main ways of contacting me. Any one of those three is favorable and workable.
Brilliant. All right, Randall, last question to you. I'm going to give you the choice of audiobook, book, or movie. And you can throw podcasts in there, but give us a recommendation of one. Does not have to be real estate related, but just give us an audiobook, a podcast, or a movie, your recommendation, and why.
Well, without a doubt, hands down, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And as you can see, all the little green tabbies here, I've been through this book so many times. I read it once a year. And it's been the biggest game changer for me by far.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Randall. Really appreciate your insights, your book recommendation. I've also read, I've only read it once though. You've probably gone through it a few more times than I have.
A lot of times, yeah.
But always appreciate your time, your expertise, and sharing about property management and the Yorkton area. It's always great to have you on.
Thank you so much, Ron. I appreciate your time and again, I look forward to more opportunities to share my knowledge with your listeners.
Thanks for tuning in to the Saskatchewan Real Estate Podcast. Do you need help with your next real estate transaction? Whether you're buying your first home, refinancing, or investing in real estate, I am here to help you navigate the mortgage process in both Saskatchewan and Alberta, or connect you to a trusted professional. Feel free to send me an email at ron@ronqmortgage.ca or use the booking link to schedule a time to chat. Until next week, I'm Ron Quaroni, your Saskatchewan mortgage professional. Bye for now.